What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I've got another Palantir update. They just received a brand new government contract. We're going to go over all of the details that are out right now about this contract and what it's going to mean for investors in the future. Now, Palantir also has received a pretty massive price target from Jefferies. We're going to go over what that's going to mean for investors in the near future and all of the different events that Palantir has coming up. And in my opinion, they're going to be extremely bullish for the company as a whole. So before we get into that, if you guys enjoyed this video, please go down and hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. It really helps me get this information out to as many people as possible, and you get to stay up to date on all of your favorite stocks and learn about a few new ones. So if we go over and take a look at the Palantir chart, this is going to be the 3-month chart. We can see that it had a little bit of a sell-off towards the end of December and the beginning of January, but recently had a reversal. So I was calling out a reversal right around this $25 mark, and it kind of kept going down to the $23 mark, but now we're seeing Palantir start to go on an uptrend, which is a very good sign for investors. Now, if you want to see the exact positions that I have in Palantir right now for the dates that are coming up that I think are important, make sure you stick to the end of this video because we're going to be going over those in detail. So let's take a look at this new contract that Palantir has received. So Raytheon and Palantir secured tech maturation OTAs. That's going to be other transaction agreements under Army's Tactical Ground System Modernization Program. So we can take a look down here, and it says that each OTA is valued at $8.5 million over 12 months and covers technology maturation under the first phase of the Tactical Intelligence Targeting Access Node Prototype Initiative. Now, this is most likely an Army program that is going to be used for a lot of different things. Now, I'm not an expert in all of these tactical intelligence targeting access nodes, but I did find something very interesting about this article. Now, if we look down here, the Army plans to select one contractor that will move forward into the second phase to conduct full system prototyping work, according to the report. So we've seen before that Palantir kind of already has a rapport with the U.S. Army. They have this massive Army Vantage contract that they've been helping basically to help out with the pandemic. And so Army and Palantir already have a pretty good relationship. Now, this is just speculation, but I think that Palantir is going to have a little bit of an advantage because of these reasons that Palantir already has a relationship with the Army, and the Army has already extended contracts to Palantir in the past. Now, this $8.5 million is pretty small in comparison to the contracts that Palantir usually receives. But if Palantir can move into the second phase to conduct the full system prototyping work, this contract could end up being massive. It could end up being a $100 million a year contract with the U.S. Army, which would be a massive boost to Palantir's yearly revenue, which would definitely give it a higher valuation and send the share price higher. Now, last Thursday, the CEO of Palantir, Alex Karp, had a pretty interesting interview with the Washington Post where he was kind of tight-lipped about all of the different things that Palantir has been doing, which I can kind of understand, but we're going to have this massive event coming up on January 26th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, this is going to be like Neo Day. It's going to be a very similar event. They're going to include product demos that include its Foundry, Gotham, and Apollo platforms, and they're going to cover examples of its commercial and government work. So we've all seen the details of the different contracts that Palantir has received from the different governments in the past, but we haven't really gotten any insight into what Palantir is actually doing in the actual contract. So we don't really know how they use their software in order to benefit the different governments and how they solve the data problems that the governments have. On this event, we're going to be able to see all of that, which is going to be unbelievable, and it's going to really give us an insight into what Palantir is actually doing for all of these different government agencies. Now, if we go over here, Palantir was just raised at Jefferies to a $30 price target from $18. So that is a 70% increase in price target, which is absolutely insane. Now, the analyst said that they like the unique nature of the company's offering for high-end data analyst use cases. Now, that's basically just Palantir's business model. They basically use data analytics and predictive analytics to solve very complicated problems that businesses and governments have and present these solutions in very simple terms. So Palantir has a lot of important events coming up. The first one that we went over was Demo Day on January 26th. That's going to be very important, and that is the first one in Palantir's near future. The second one is going to be Palantir's earnings date. Right now, that is predicted to be on February 11th, but 3 days after Palantir releases their earnings, they have a very important event coming up. Now, this is sort of a bearish event. A lot of people think that this is going to cause a decrease in the share price because of all of the selling pressure. Now, this is going to be the share lockup period expiring. So essentially what a share lockup period is that a certain amount of shares from the original investors, the C-suite, and some of the high-level employees are held in this lockup, and they cannot sell their shares until this date. So this is basically, the reason for this is that they don't want on the IPO day for all these insiders to be dumping their shares on the open market because it would cause such a massive selling pressure. The volatility in the stock would be absolutely insane on the opening day, and the share price would most likely plummet. Now, a lot of people think that this is going to be a little bit bearish. I don't think so, because if you take a look at the Palantir chart, we can see that it is trading at around $26, but the high of the year was about $33.50. Now, if you're an insider at Palantir and you know everything that they're doing, the specifics of the technology, how it works, and what the benefits to the different organizations and companies are, you don't really have any reason to want to sell your shares, because if they're as great as everybody says they are, there's no reason to want to sell your position in the company if you know that this company is the next greatest thing in the data analytics field. Now, going back to this little reversal right here, Palantir has gone up a pretty substantial amount, about $3 over the course of the last week. Now, if we go over and take a look at the option chain, we can see that I have the February 19th $30 strike, and I have 2 of these calls. Now, there was about $6.3 million betting on Palantir going to 30 by this date. Now, in order to calculate that, you look at the open interest, which is about 33,000. That's the amount of contracts being held in people's brokerage accounts right now, and you multiply it by the cost of a contract, and that is 192. Now, if we go over here, we can see that about 7,000 of these contracts were traded today. Now, that is bought and sold. I really think that these contracts have a very high probability of going in the money. Now, I've heard a couple comments that say, well, Palantir, this option chain doesn't really say that a lot of people think it's going to 30. They just want the price to go up and they will make money. Now, that is kind of true, but also not true. So Palantir still has to go up a substantial amount for these contracts to gain any value, and here's why. It's the implied volatility right here. So when the implied volatility is so high, the option chain has already priced in large moves to Palantir's option chain and share price. So if there's a large move in Palantir, there's going to be less of a move in this option chain if there was a company that was pricing in a less large move. So maybe like a Home Depot or a normal stock that pays dividends. If that stock went up 10%, the option chain would go absolutely crazy. But if Palantir goes up 10%, these options may only go up 100 or 200%. So you can kind of deduce that a lot of people are actually thinking that Palantir is going to go to 30. Now, this date is about a month away, about a month and a week. If we go over and take a look at the weekly expiration date, these contracts only have 3 days to expiration. And the $30 strike here, you can see that the stock was up around 0.96% today. And these option contracts fell 40%. And that's because the implied volatility is so high. But the open interest is also incredibly high on this $30 strike. There is about $400,000 betting that Palantir will go to 30 by the end of this week. Now, that's a pretty substantial bet for only 3 days until expiration and being so far out of the money. Now, if we take a look at the puts for this week, we can see that the open interest is not really as high. We can see that there's nothing really that stands out in a very substantial fashion. The volume is not as high as well. And if we go back to the calls, we can see that the volume on the 30s today was about 18,600. So there was a lot of action on this $30 strike today. Now, are there people that know something that we don't, and Palantir might release some massive news that is going to send the stock price to the moon? We don't really know. That's why I give myself more time on these contracts, so I have a little bit more wiggle room with the price fluctuations in the company. Now, I'm going to be riding my $30 strikes for February 19th, hopefully until the day of or the day before earnings, so I can kind of sell out on this implied volatility run up and make some pretty substantial profits. So that's going to be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this one, please go down and hit the like button and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.